Welcome back, it's me Lou, and I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review. If you are new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer or subscriber, thanks again for dropping by. I greatly appreciate you checking out my video. If you enjoy the content here, feel free to check out all my other videos. I have all sorts of weird action figures and stuff, and you can hear me just babble on and on and on. But with that being said, today we are looking at this. This comes from McFarlane Toys. It's from their DC Multiverse line, and it is Bloodsport, as seen in the new Suicide Squad movie. Okay, so I just reviewed the Peacemaker action figure. As of this recording, it's August 6th, 2021. I'm not sure when I'll upload the Peacemaker video, and I'm not sure when I'm going to upload this one or in which order. But I know I kind of want to upload them, sooner than later, especially since the movie just came out today. So yeah, we're taking a look at Bloodsport here. I picked this up today. I ran to the mall. I went to the mall today because I was running errands, and I wanted to stop by my GameStop. Because I was there the other night, and that's when I picked up the Peacemaker figure. And I knew they had a couple of new figures in there, but I forgot which ones they had. So I went to the store, and I ran into this guy. And I just saw the movie last night on HBO Max, and I'm like, I need to get this. I don't know. It's like one of those things, like, you get that kind of like, I don't know. As soon as you see something new, and if you just saw the movie or cartoon or video game, it's kind of like you're kind of riding that wave of hype and excitement. So I'm coming off this hype and wave of the new movie. I'm like, man, I really want some Suicide Squad figures. And I told myself during the John Cena review that it's going to be a pain in the butt to try to find the rest of this wave. But lucky me, I found Bloodsport, and it was one of the figures I really wanted out of the 4 figures. Because I think the costume design looks really cool, and I don't know, I want to get everything, just so I can make the giant King Shark figure, because it looks ginormous. Alright, so let's check out this figure. The box is your usual McFarlane Toys fare when it comes to the DC Multiverse. We got the black box, the white trim, in the back there's that kind of like blue montage of just like all sorts of random Superman, Batman images. The figure is framed pretty decent inside of this window. Here's Bloodsport on the left, and on the right you see the upper chest, or the upper torso, the chest of King Shark, and it's just massive. It's so massive that it's split in half. So you have the chest on one side, and on the back on the bottoms is, I don't know, the back of his shoulders and lats. He's ginormous. It's a huge, giant figure, and I really want to put them together. So yeah, this looks really cool. So this is the standard version of Bloodsport. I believe there's a Walmart exclusive, and that's the unmasked version. And that one you see actor Idris Elba's actual face, whereas this one he's just kind of helmeted up. And you hear me complain all the time on some of my other videos, especially with the McFarlane Toys. As much as I love McFarlane, I hate the fact that they make us double dip and get the same figure, and the only thing different is maybe like a helmet or a face, and that really bothers me. Just because Marvel Legends and Mattel with their WWE figures, they give us sometimes the multiple heads. McFarlane, on the other hand, they're playing dirty. They go by the old school tricks, and they know that the serious collectors are going to double dip, so they do it, and we buy them, and it's a vicious cycle. But it can't be helped. I'm proof of it. I'll double dip if I have to, just to get a head, a helmetless figure, just so I can see the actor's face. All right, on the back we have Idris Elba in his Bloodsport costume. And we have the little guide here on how to build King Shark. Yeah, so it goes numerically. So if you want the first 2 pieces, which is the head and the abdomen, that comes with Polka Dot Man. Bloodsport includes the back and the front of the upper torso. Number 3 is Peacemaker. That's the John Cena figure, and that comes with the arms. And Harley Quinn and she comes in the dress. That includes the lower body, which is the legs and the shorts. So the nice thing about this Build-A-Figure is that it's a 4-figure commitment. It makes me crazy when Marvel Legends is guilty of doing this. The Build-A-Figures, sometimes they'll make you buy like I think 5 and at the most maybe 6 figures just to complete the Build-A-Figure, and for me that's insane. You're looking, I mean, when you do the pre-orders at some of the websites, you're looking at possibly spending like $150, if not more than that, and it's stupid. But a lot of us, we want to complete that Build-A-Figure, so we'll buy the entire wave. So yeah, this is exciting stuff here. Like I said, I saw the movie last night. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Idris Elba is awesome in the movie. I don't know anything about the Bloodsport character. He's never really crossed into the comic books that I read. He might have, but maybe I forgot. When I think of characters like this, I mean, the first guy that always comes to mind immediately is Deathstroke. For me, Deathstroke's always been kind of like the premier mercenary / bounty hunter in the DC universe. And, Deathstroke, he's all over the place. Whereas Bloodsport, I don't know too much about him. I'm not sure if he's a guy that goes below the radar or if he's a throwback character from long ago. But, this character is in the movie, and like many of you, I'm being introduced to him for the first time. If I like the character enough, maybe I'll go seek out his adventures in the comics. And who knows, they might put him in a future like Injustice game or something. So yeah, we have Idris Elba here, dressed up as Bloodsport. Oh, on a weird side note, speaking of Idris Elba, so this was years ago, maybe 8 years ago. I was in Las Vegas with my brother, and we're hanging out one morning at Planet Hollywood. I was off doing my own thing, and my brother, I think, was at the roulette table. And then when we met up later on, he was telling me how he was playing roulette with Idris Elba. He was at the table also. And I think Idris Elba was with some of his buddies. And I guess, they're pretty, I don't know, they're ballers, so they're gambling with a lot of money. And I guess not necessarily a big crowd, but my brother was talking about how, certain people recognized who he was. And they were kind of like off to the side, just pointing and chatting. Oh, that's Idris Elba. So the thing is, at the time, for me anyways, is that this is around the period when Idris Elba played that character Charles Minor, and he appeared in The Office. I'm not sure if any of you are fans of the old NBC show The Office. So during that period of time in the television show, I think the Michael Scott character, I think he might have gotten fired or something. And then Idris Elba, I think I'm not sure if he was the plant manager or if he was like the head boss of Dunder Mifflin. But there was a couple of episodes where Idris Elba played like, a boss / villain kind of character that no one really liked. And around this time also, I think there are rumors floating around that he was going to replace Daniel Craig as James Bond, which I would have been cool with that, but that never came to light. So yeah, Idris Elba, with us fanboys, he's a heavy. He's been in the Thor movies, and in him playing Bloodsport and Suicide Squad is awesome. He does an excellent job. So let's focus on this action figure. So one thing that caught my eye immediately, so I don't keep up to date with the news all that often when it comes to action figure stuff. Like I follow all the like major companies and the online stores like on social media, but in terms of seeking out news, I don't always hunt it down as much as I used to, like when I was younger. Partially because I like to be surprised, and I'm just sometimes just too busy. But one thing that caught my eye with some of these recent DC figures, and I've said this in a couple of videos, is that I've seen people mumble about this on social media, but a lot of these McFarlane Toys, the ones that are coming out under the DC banner, a lot of the characters whose primary weapons are guns, for some reason they're not including guns anymore. This was evident with a re-release of Flashpoint Batman. The John Cena Peacemaker figure, he doesn't come with guns, even though in the movie and in the comics, I think he's predominantly known for wielding like pistols and stuff. For that John Cena Peacemaker figure, one version comes with a sword, another one comes with an axe. Likewise with Bloodsport, after seeing the movie, this is a dude that he wields like all sorts of modified pistols and rifles throughout the entire movie. And yet for some odd reason, the figure comes with a pair of swords. And I don't remember him wielding swords. He might have at one point. And from what I've seen people mumble about on social media, I've seen people say that I think there was a mandate from DC ordering McFarlane Toys not to include like guns with with the DC action figures. Now, I don't know how true that is. That's just something I read and I saw it pop up a couple of times in the comment sections of some of the social media posts. So if there's anyone out there that could clarify why some of these figures are coming with swords as opposed to coming like with the actual weapons they're supposed to have, leave a comment below because I'm really curious about that. In this character, especially this character, because in the movie Bloodsport, he wields some really wicked looking firearms. He has these really cool pistols that kind of like fold out, and then he also wields this really crazy rifle that's like modular, and he just keeps on attaching pieces to it to making it keeps on getting bigger and bigger. It's really cool. It's really high tech. It seems like something like out of the video game Borderlands. I mean, it's really wild stuff. So for whatever reason, some of these DC guys are not coming with guns anymore, and I kind of want to know why. So if any of you could clarify that, please leave a comment below, or even if you have a link to like an article about it or a statement from like either party, I'd love to see it. But getting back to this figure, so with the exception of him not having the guns, I could live with that. Because, I'm more so about the action figure. But it still would have been cool to get some of those really awesome pistols and rifles that he wields in the movie. So in the package, we have the trading card, which is a photograph of Idris Elba as Bloodsport. And then, so first impressions of the figure while he's still in the tray. It looks awesome. It's funny because I'm supposed to be focusing on this guy to review, but every time I look at this, all I'm staring at are these crazy giant Build-A-Figure pieces for King Shark. Like, I'm supposed to be talking about Bloodsport and hyping you up on why you need to buy this and why it looks so cool. But the whole time, I'm just staring at, like, this, imagining, oh man, how big is King Shark's head going to be? Is this figure going to be gigantic? And I love these giant Build-A-Figures. This, for me, it kind of reminds me so much of, like, Marvel Legends. They've been doing some really big Build-A-Figures. Like, there was that crazy Sugar Man from Age of Apocalypse that we built up. There was, the Juggernauts and the Hulk figures we've all built up. The Wendigos. Those are always so big, but this guy seems like he's going to eclipse everybody. And I remember with the DC Classics line from Mattel, some of their Build-A-Figures were gigantic also. And I don't know, I just love Build-A-Figures. I'm not one of those guys that got sucked into building every Build-A-Figure, but if it's a character that looks really cool, or if it's a character I have an affinity for, without doubt, I'll go out and seek all the pieces to build them. And speaking of the Build-A-Figure for King Shark, I'm like kicking myself so much for not buying that wave. It was like one of the last few waves of the Mattel DC Classics, and they had a King Shark figure, and it looked so badass. I think it was part of that line that included the Jim Gordon Batman, I think. But that figure looked so amazing, and I have one or two pieces, but I never went ahead to complete the figure, and I kind of want to now, but I have a feeling that with the release of the new Suicide Squad movie, that the interest in the King Shark character is going to, peak a little, so I think people are going to run back online and hunt down, any kind of King Shark figure they could find, like whether it be that Funko, what was it called, like Primal Age or Savage World or whatever it was. They had a King Shark figure. It kind of looked like a He-Man figure. That was a cool figure. I got that. But that Mattel Build-A-Figure King Shark, wow, that thing's amazing. But that's not to take anything away from this one. This one looks super, super cool. And if you watch the new movie, King Shark, very lovable. He's like, every time he's on screen, he steals the show. So yeah, I want to build up this figure, and I know that you're going to want to build up this figure also. And I think I mentioned this in the John Cena review also, but I think there's a way to obtain King Shark outside the Build-A-Figure. Correct me if I'm wrong, or if you know any details about it, but I think I might have saw something where King Shark's going to be offered as a complete figure, like maybe in a box set or as an exclusive. I might be wrong on that, but for some reason I just have a slight memory of hearing or seeing something about that. But enough about that. Let's get to the main event, and that's Bloodsport here. In the tray, he looks beautiful. Costume looks... He looks very colorful. My first thought when I look at this guy is that he looks like a Chicago Bear. You know, for the NFL football team, he has that Chicago Bear blue and even has the orange. So it's... I can't look beyond that. So when I look at this guy and stare at him long enough, he either looks like a Chicago Bear or he looks like some sort of variation of like Deathstroke. You know, if you're familiar with Deathstroke, he's a premier bounty hunter. I mentioned him earlier in DC, and his color scheme is predominantly this color blue, orange, and I think even kind of like silver. So I don't know if he's trying to steal Deathstroke's thunder or if he's doing his own thing. I've seen a couple of photos of what Bloodsport looks like in the comic books, and it doesn't look anything like this guy, which is okay. You know, if they want to go a completely different route, I'm cool with that. So yeah, let's get this guy out. Comes with swords, and to be honest, these swords are taped in. I don't want to bother taking them out. It annoys me to hell that they didn't give him guns. So if you can imagine him having these swords in his hands, you know, go ahead. And on the downside, even though they're giving you swords, there's no sheaths for them. I gotta rewatch the movie because I'm not sure if these are swords that he has himself or if he takes these swords off of someone else and uses them. And judging by the way these swords look, maybe maybe it's the kind of like retractable, collapsible kind of sword that kind of like folds in and out or extends. It's kind of like in the J.J. Abrams' first Star Trek movie, the one that takes place in the Kelvin timeline. There's that one scene where the Romulans are trying to like, I think they're like trying to like dig out the Vulcan homeworld, and they have that crazy like floating like mine kind of drill, but it's like shooting that giant laser. And then Sulu kind of like skydives in, and he's like fighting with the Romulans, but then he pulls out that sword that kind of just folds out. That kind of reminds me of what these things are. I don't remember if that was the case in the movie, like if these swords fold out and retract, or if these are someone else's weapons. But either way, it annoys me to no end that they didn't give him the really cool pistols that he has in the movie. Like every time Idris Elba gets pissed off or does something cool, he's always pulling out these really wild... It's like a wild-looking gun. It almost looks like this actually. So this is this is a screwdriver that came with this lamp that I'm using right now. And it's a art lamp, but this uses a screwdriver to adjust the crane and the pulley system to adjust the height of the lamp. But the shape of this looks very similar to Idris Elba's pistols in the new Suicide Squad movie. So he pulls these guns out, and then they start folding and spinning around and doing all this wild stuff. So it annoys me that they didn't give him those really cool guns. Because, I mean, you could, like, dig into your Marvel Legends, or if you have, like, a 1/12 scale gun somewhere else and, you know, give him a G.I. Joe classified gun. But it's not the same thing. You know, you want to outfit this guy with the correct, authentic weaponry. And it's lame that this guy's suited up in body armor and he's ready to go, and all he has are these, like, toothpick swords. So, yeah, I don't want to look at these swords anymore, but King Shark, I have no problem staring at this all day until I get all the pieces. So, examining this action figure, it looks awesome. The detail and the sculpting, I say this all the time, McFarlane Toys never disappoints me in terms of the detail and the sculpting. Top notch, all the way. And get a close look at this guy. So, Bloodsport, he wears this helmet. And for me, it's very reminiscent of the Xenomorph alien from the Alien movie. Just because, much like the Xenomorph, you don't see the Xenomorph's eyes. It depends on the movie, though. I think in the first Alien movie, if you look through the clear dome, you can kind of see the skull and the eyes in there. But for the other movies, the Xenomorph, the eyes are it's kind of absent of having eyes because it has that dome. And for me, this kind of reminds me of that because it has this dome, covers the eyes, and then you have the jawline with these exposed teeth, much like the Xenomorph in Alien. And also like the Xenomorph in Alien, there's also kind of like a hint of like muscle tissue on the jaws. The one thing though with the movie though is that I don't recall the jawline being this much exposed. Like I remember seeing this mouthpiece and jawline in the movie, but in the movie I kind of want to say that I think this visor dome goes down even further, so he doesn't have this like snarling look all the time. It's either that or maybe Idris Elba just has his head tucked in, so you see more of the top of his dome than the bottom. But either way, it's a beautiful sculpt. And as I mentioned previously, supposedly I think Walmart's the one that has the exclusive on this guy. So this is the unmasked version of the figure. And like I said, it annoys me that McFarlane Toys, they make you double dip. It's like there's no reason why they can't give you both heads. You know, Marvel Legends does it, Mattel does it with their WWE figures. I get it why McFarlane does it. To me, it's a dirty trick that, you know, toy companies used to do back in the 90s, and they still do to this day. But with the amount of accessories that some toy companies give us, I think it's kind of unfair of them to like this, you know, make this an entirely new figure. If anything, friggin', you know, give us the correct weapons instead of these stupid swords, and at least I'd be happy the fact that they didn't give me the real head, you know, in addition to this guy. So yeah, this is the Walmart one. Pretty much the exact same figure. The only thing different is the head. All right, going back to this, beautiful work on the upper torso. It's a very high-tech tactical armor. Has all sorts of panels, all sorts of harnesses and buckles. The sculpting is superb. I love micro textures on stuff because companies don't need to go that far, but they do. Nice micro texture on his uniform. And much like some of the other McFarlane toys, this is kind of like a rubber overlay, so I'm not really sure what the interior of this body looks like. And I've voiced my concern about this before too in some of my other reviews of some of the McFarlane figures. As much as I love the fact that McFarlane's really pushing figure engineering and giving us some cool new technologies and innovations in terms of action figures and the way they're engineered, the way they're articulated, and the way they move, I'm concerned about this material, this rubbery material that's being used on these figures. Just because, you know, history has shown that, you know, all sorts of plastics react differently over the course of time. Like for some Toy Biz figures, the softer rubbery plastics, for whatever reason, they begin to break down and melt. Other figures that are made of softer rubbery plastics, sometimes those plastic materials kind of like, it's almost like the equivalent of like dry rot with rubber. They kind of like dehydrate, if I'm not sure if that's the correct word, but they kind of like get a little bit more brittle and then they begin to crack. And I'm kind of curious if that's going to be the case with something like this. Personally, I love what it could do for me and the figure. What it could do for me. I love what it could provide for the figure and what it allows the figure to do. It provides sometimes for a seamless look. It provides for a more natural look. But at the same time, you know, what's going to be the cost at the end? You know, is in 2 years from now, is this piece here, this rubbery piece, is it going to crack? Is it going to start to melt? Only time will tell, because it's for me, it feels like it's a newer technology that's being applied. But it's great. It allows for some great innovation in terms of the torso and arm movement, and the detailing is just wonderful. I think it's great. The sculpting on his arm is great. He has his shoulder pads, some buckles around his biceps. Really cool looking, sci-fi looking gauntlets. Everything about this is detailed. You look at the belt, each buckle and pocket is like detailed out the wazoo. He has more harnesses. And much like a lot of figures from the McFarlane line, he kind of has that like plastic rubbery diaper that's very flexible. So I like it because it hides the gaps between the legs and the lower waist, so when they kick up, it doesn't really break that illusion. It still looks like it's all one piece. But then at the same time, you know, you bring it down and it kind of like, depending on your viewing angle, it almost looks like he's wearing a diaper. You see how it kind of extends outward? This figure, Idris Elba. I'm not sure if Idris Elba has a flat butt, but this guy has a flat butt. Yeah, wonderful stuff. One thing I do appreciate about this figure greatly is that this figure does a great job of hiding the ball joints in his wrists and ankles. If you've seen my review of the McFarlane Dr. Fate, that one, as much as I love that figure, his wrist articulation, it's marred by this horrible looking ball joint where his wrist should be. And likewise, for the John Cena Peacemaker figure, he has this horrible like ball joint where his ankle is. But this figure does a great job of hiding it. Yeah, so the detail's beautiful, the sculpting's top notch. The paint application is very clean. And speaking of paint application, alright, so this guy, he's predominantly like this dark navy blue and he has like orange highlights. So in the movie, I don't recall the orange and even the blue coming at me this loudly. In the movie, the colors seem a lot darker and the orange definitely seems a lot more muted. So for example, on the back of the box, is like, so for the promotional artwork or the concept artwork, his costume here looks more black than blue, if anything. It looks more like even like a dark gray. And the orange bits almost look like a dark gold, but it looks like it has some like battle scoring and heat marks. Like, so it's kind of like damaged or exposed to a lot of heat because it almost has that charred kind of look. But that's not reflective in the figure. Like, I don't recall the costume looking this bright in the figure. I remember seeing, like, for example, this lower jawline. In the movie, there's certain scenes for me where it almost looks more like a burnt gold than orange. But, I mean, who knows? You know, maybe McFarlane and their designers, they were given concept art by the movie studio, and that's what they had to go by. So, like, I don't know what the time frame is for how soon an action figure is you know, designed and produced versus when a movie is like made or when it comes out, because we've seen a lot of times with other toy lines where you know, there might be a lot of inaccuracies with an action figure just because that action figure or toy is based off of the concept art versus, you know, what actually made the final cut. But I don't want to take that away too much from the figure because I think it's a beautiful action figure. Examining the articulation, his head rotates, it goes up and down. His arms rotate and it can go out. He has a bicep cut, so a bicep swivel. His elbows are double jointed, which is nice, especially if he's going to wield a gun. Unfortunately, he doesn't wield a gun because he doesn't come with any. For his wrists, I can't see. He has a slight up and down movement. But I mean, it's kind of limited because of the gauntlet, but I'm really glad at least they covered up that ball joint that was exposed on some of the other figures. I'm not sure if he has an ab crunch. He could move back and forward, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's an ab crunch in there. Maybe, I'm guessing there might be like a ball joint between his abdomen and his lower chest. He has a waist swivel. For his legs, he can kick up, and because of that soft plastic around his crotch, it's kind of seamless, so you don't really get any gappage. But when you pull the leg back down, the gap this appears like horribly. So then he looks like he's wearing a diaper. But you could kind of like fold it back in a little, kind of. He could kick out. He doesn't have a thigh cut, so no thigh swivel, but there's like slight movement. He could kind of rotate his thighs about maybe at the most maybe 10 degrees. Double jointed knees. I'm not he lacks a boot swivel. That's okay. He has ankle articulation that allows him to kick up a little bit. His knees bend, or I mean his toes bend. And yeah, so not a whole lot of in terms of like rocker movement in terms of his ankles. Looks like it could, but it's kind of hindered by the boot a little, which I don't mind because I'd rather have the boot get in the way than have that horrible gap. And you see that exposed ankle joint like in the Peacemaker figure. So what else is there to talk about? So I think I've dotted all my I's, and I think I've crossed all my T's. I'm not sure if there's anything left. Yeah, so for the most part, this is a beautiful figure. If I had to rate this guy numerically, I want to say an 8. An 8 even. This plain 8. 8 even. Just because, for one, I would have rated him higher if he came with the proper accessories. Like, I'm sure maybe he does wield those swords in the movie at some point, but I think for the majority of film, he's always carrying around those awesome guns. And for me, he needs the awesome guns. It's like making an action figure of Cable and just giving him like a tiny pistol or a knife. You know, Cable is known for carrying around these giant fictionist-looking blasters, and it's cool that if you know, you get them with the action figure. Likewise, if you get the Punisher, you know, you want the submachine guns, you want the pistols, you want everything. I saw that friggin' Suicide Squad movie last night, and I was hyped to get those crazy rifles and pistols, and all McFarlane Toys gives me are these toothpick swords. You know, for me, it doesn't fly. I want the actual weapons. I'm sure some of the many talented 3D printers and artists online are going to make us some third-party ones, and for that I'm grateful. But for the most part, I kind of really wish McFarlane gave them to us. So I think that's why I kind of wanted to give this guy just like a plain 8 across the board. For me, it's a good 8 though. You know, the sculpting's beautiful. The paint application's clean, but I'm not sure how accurate it is to the film. It might be the correct color palette according to like maybe what McFarlane was given, but when I watched the movie, you know, the costume doesn't look this bright. It looked a lot more darker, a lot more blacker. The oranges weren't as pronounced. I would have loved to got an extra head, but with some of the McFarlane toys lately, the likeness of the actors, it's not there. It's not happening. Like the Aquaman figure doesn't look anything like Jason Momoa. The unmasked Peacemaker figure, it doesn't look like John Cena all that much. And this Idris Elba face, it's not doing anything for me. It doesn't really capture the likeness. And it's disappointing because when I think of like exact likeness in action figures, I always think of McFarlane Toys just because like growing up, they gave us those amazing X-File figures and the Kiss action figures and the movie Maniacs. And the likeness of those figures were so spot on to like what the actors and actresses looked like. So maybe in some ways it was better for me just to get this without the actor's head, just because it doesn't look like Idris Elba. Exactly. I don't want to sound negative or too critical. Don't get me wrong. I love this figure. I just think I'm coming off that high of seeing the movie, and maybe my expectations for the figure were a little bit higher than they should be. And I'm sure many of you will probably feel the same way also. But nonetheless, it's an amazing figure. I do highly suggest it. I have it in hand, and it's beautiful. I can't wait to get the rest of the wave, and I really want to assemble that King Shark figure. And when I do, I'll make sure to post a video of it. So let's wrap this baby up. Thank you so much for stopping by and visiting. I greatly appreciate it. Like I said, if you're a new viewer, I hope you enjoyed my content. If you do, go check out my other videos. I review all sorts of stuff from Marvel, Star Wars, Transformers, and even the occasional oddity here and there. If you're a turning viewer or subscriber, welcome back. I enjoy the conversation some of you have started in my comments. You know, so keep the conversation going. I love hearing about other people's stories when it comes to collecting toys. I love the criticisms I sometimes get about my customs. You know, just anything. You know, I start the conversation, and you know, I'll be sure to continue it. So in the meantime, go out there, check out the Suicide Squad movie. It's aces. Go out and hunt the figures, and good luck finding them. I hope you complete King Shark before I do. And if you do, let me know, and let me know what you think of them, because I can't wait to have them in hand. So I hope you enjoy your day. Thank you for everything, and I will talk to you later. Take care.